Anthony Magnabosco.
How are you?
I'm very well rested, thanks to the...
Are you? Because I was wondering, honestly, because when I met you, we met here like at 11:30 at night or almost midnight.
Yeah.
And when I was watching on the XP, you look so tired.
Well, this is the first decent night's sleep I've had, so...
Oh, good.
But what's going to happen now, of course, is I'm going to fly back to Croatia and then be on different settings again. So the jet lag will kick in again.
Wow. I mean, it's good. I mean, it's good that you're getting around and getting so much exposure and you're calling attention to your activism. I think that's great. I feel like I'm just as busy, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly.
Compared
to you, I mean, you might be doing more. I'm not sure.
The crops are white for harvesting. There's a lot of work to do, isn't there? It feels like. There
is. Do you feel like you're kind of resigned to one specific niche, XJWs, or do you cut across different religions? I'd imagine you probably do.
So just for the benefit of an introduction.
Yeah, sorry.
Welcome to the John Cedars channel, not from the bunker, but from an undisclosed location in San Antonio, Texas. Anthony Magnabosco is, I consider you actually kind of a mentor.
Wow.
Because
really?
I refer people to you for your approach when it comes to street epistemology, which I believe is the go-to strategy when it comes to engaging with, people who have problematic ideas, full stop, but certainly when it comes to Jehovah's Witnesses. So whenever people say, how should I speak to my believing Jehovah's Witness relatives? I say, look up Anthony Magnabosco, look up Street Epistemology.
I'm so grateful that you do that. Because it not only sends a lot of people to my channel, which is nice, but I think it helps them grasp a technique for engaging with people in a way that could be quite effective in helping them take another look at their views.
Yeah. And
possibly lowering their confidence in it and maybe even changing their minds. So I'm grateful that you and other people see the value in the street epistemology approach and you support us in that way.
Yeah.
It's valuable coming from somebody with your background as well as the expertise that you have in your field. When we get an endorsement like that from you, that's good for street epistemology, and then it helps the people that you've referred to us.
Well, it's good for street epistemology, but street epistemology is good for everyone, so it's, yeah. But no, I'm delighted to do that. I'm delighted to finally meet you in person, because I have spoken to you before on the channel,
right?
But it's just nice to catch up, really. And you asked about, am I wedded to JW or kind of more broadly?
I think I was asking, are you sort of relegated to a specific niche of XJWs? Are you... I watch your channel, and I think it's very heavily focused on JWs and Jehovah's Witnesses. I guess that's my question. Yeah. Do you see yourself just sort of staying with them in that world, which I would imagine you could probably do and still be extremely productive and help people in that view? Or what's your 5-year plan, Lloyd?
I don't really have a 5-year plan. I suppose just do what feels right, and what feels right at the moment, because basically there's way more propaganda to wade through than I can actually do justice. There's so much video content alone being churned out by Watchtower, let alone the written stuff, that it feels like if I have the ability to dismantle it and kind of render it inert in some way, then that's what I should be doing, using the skill sets I've acquired through my personal journey. Now, will I always be doing it the way I'm doing it? I don't know. I do try and weave in to my videos a bit of kind of general critical thinking, free thoughts, just to kind of steer people if I can in that direction. But I feel for the benefit of my viewers and putting them at ease, it's important to stress that I don't expect my viewers to be atheists, because I understand that, getting out of a high control group that's abusing and manipulating people is itself an immense achievement. And I don't want people to feel as though I now insist that you denounce religion altogether. I think that that's a journey that they should take themselves. And if, look, I'm not going to censor myself when it comes to expressing my views on the Bible, but people should understand that those are my views and they can believe what they want.
Yeah, that was the sense that I got when I was watching you with was it Leah Remini that you were with? I got the sense that they were walking a really fine line of calling attention to the problems in the religion, but not being so anti-theistic. And I think that's probably something you have to be a little bit more conscious of than maybe I do, because Street Epistemology was born out of the atheist community, the atheist movement, I suppose. But we don't want it to stay there. We want it to be a tool that can be used for other people. So maybe I have a little bit more flexibility. Perhaps
I think you do. I think you do, and I personally feel as though I need to pick my battles. Like there were some themes that kind of came up during the course of filming that particular Aftermath special, where in different circumstances I would have wanted to go batting a bit more for atheism, but the big opportunity that we had was to expose Jehovah's Witnesses, so I was going to stick completely on that subject.
Strategically, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Because of their megaphone, it made sense to dial it back in terms of the power of the punch for the breadth of the exposure. I think, that's probably pretty true.
Now, what I'm interested in kind of really drilling down on, because again, I'm anxious to kind of graft street epistemology as much as possible onto the XJW kind of approach and XJW cause. When I watch your videos, everything's very formulaic. It's almost like you could call it a scientific approach, because you're doing things in a certain order. You're making sure you get consent. You're making sure the person is entirely in control of the situation. The problem in the context of Jehovah's Witness conversations is that they are happy to share their beliefs and try and recruit people with their beliefs, so long as it's not being recorded.
Yeah.
And so that presents me with the question, how much can I graft street epistemology into?
Well, to be clear, street epistemology is an approach that you can use whether you have a video camera or not. You don't have to go out and record your talks and put them online. Regarding the formulaic nature of some of the videos that you might be watching, there is maybe some patterns to it. But a big part of street epistemology, I think, is to go where your conversation partner takes you and work within the parameters of the venue that you're in. So, yeah, you might actually encounter two Jehovah's Witnesses as opposed to one college student who happens to be strolling by, for example. They might not like the idea of being recorded, whereas maybe somebody that's on my channel, they're excited to be recorded and they want to get the link so that they can share it with their friends. Completely different response to these conversations. But the technique of street epistemology doesn't really change that much. It doesn't even depend on the claim or the number of years a person has been into it, or maybe even the impact that it might have on the person if they discover that the belief isn't true. Technically, street epistemology is pretty much the same. Help a person feel comfortable. Give them an idea of what you'd like to challenge them on in a respectful way. Explore their claim. Figure out their reasons. Explore how they determine that those reasons are good. What method did they use? And try to end on a good note. That's pretty much the same. And that could be overlaid whether you encounter a cart of JWs in front of a cart who are just, there's 3 of them or 4 of them. You can still do it, but it's more challenging. There's different challenges with your community. But it's not impossible. I've heard people say, JWs are the hardest people to use street epistemology with. We may have even talked about this a little bit on your podcast. It's been a while since we've done that, but I really don't think that's the case. Here's the thing. Street epistemology works really well if you have an honest interlocutor and they want to believe true things. If they're willing to be honest with themselves and you, and they want to believe, they desire to believe the truth, even at a cost. If you have those components and you use street epistemology, you'll probably be extremely successful. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily the case when you walk up to a Jehovah's Witness who has their peer standing next to them. And they may have even been specifically trained to, when I'm making some progress with you with my questions, another person interrupts. Whether they're doing it subconsciously or not, I don't know, or consciously possibly even. That could be, there are certain challenges that engaging with people on the street with when they're manning carts, I think could be a lot more challenging than if I happen to just run into somebody on a trail or a campus, or I'm on a bus with somebody, or even talking to one of my family members. What do you think? I mean, you've watched a lot of videos. I take it.
Yeah, not as many as I would like. Let me spell out as specifically as possible what the likely scenario would be.
Go for it.
So when you see Jehovah's Witnesses stood next to a cart, they have a playbook that they're following. It's not just like they're interested in engaging with whoever they speak to on whatever subject. They have been briefed by their service overseer, which is a particular role of elder in the congregation, that their main task is to point people to jw.org, and they're not really there to get into any sort of debate with anyone, and they're certainly not supposed to in any way go on camera. But they are in the business of, in a very public setting, because it's called public witnessing, recruiting people to the religion. Now, I personally think it's rather disingenuous to publicly proselytize with strings attached. Either you're being public about your beliefs or you're not. If you're only going to be public so long as your words aren't being recorded, that tells me you have something to hide. So it's how do I engage with witnesses with all of those constraints? Let's say there is a state where it's legal to record conversations without both parties' consent.
I mean, even if there are laws that say I can walk up to somebody with a camera in their face and there's nothing they can legally do about it. When you're approaching a person, when you want to use street epistemology to respectfully challenge their claim and their reasons and their method that they're using, a defensive interlocutor is not going to yield a productive conversation. So my advice for the situation that you just really painted out very well would be kind of the same advice I've given in the past when you see a street preacher on the street. They're out there to do a specific job. They're in that mindset. They're in that mindset of preaching or proselytizing or evangelizing. Whether they're yelling through a bullhorn or they're passively standing there just smiling and nodding at people like they do in front of a JW cart. And I've been in different countries, and there must be some sort of playbook, because it's almost like McDonald's. It's franchised almost. Like they're very consistent regardless of where you go, it seems. My advice, though, is to maybe the only thing that you can do if you really want to help a person manning a JW cart is to introduce yourself. There could be some disadvantages to disclosing your position, particularly for JWs, especially if you've been disfellowshipped, I think. Well,
what I would typically do is I would say, I'm Lloyd. I'm not a Jehovah's Witness, but I have family who are Jehovah's Witnesses, so I know a little bit about the religion, all of which is true. I'm just withholding.
So probably the only thing that you can do at a JW cart maybe is to build a little rapport, get them to see you as a person, help you see them as a person, right? Reset your empathy meter, basically, to be like, okay, this is a person. They probably have a mistaken worldview. They're out here. They're donating their time. They really think that it's true. How can I actually help them? And hitting them, walking up to them with a camera, they're not going to engage with you. Or leading with, I'm a skeptic and I'm here to completely demolish your beliefs.
What about a hidden camera?
I'm not really crazy about that.
I know you're not crazy, and this is what I mean.
I saw the one, was it a Disney World? Maybe? It was from a distance.
Yeah.
I did.
Go on, Tom.
I think full disclosure is the way to go, because you want to build trust. And if they discover 3 conversations in that you've been surreptitiously recording it, it could damage all the progress that you've made to date. So just to finish my point, you walk up to a cart, build some rapport, it's tough to use this approach of street epistemology when you have other people around that might be influencing the other person, whether they're more defensive because their friends are around. The best thing that I think that you can do, whether it's a street preacher or a Jehovah's Witness or whatever, is to get the person away from the environment that they happen to be in at the moment in those situations. So the street preacher, wait till he or she's done street preaching, offer them some water, ask if they want to sit down and chat with you away from their buddies. If you walk up to a JW cart, it might be very difficult to entice one of them to walk 30 feet away from the cart and have that interview with you. It's probably impossible. They may not even do it. It might be part of their script. I don't know. But the point here is that if you can get the person just to step away from the mindset of, I need to tell people this, to, wow, I kind of feel safe, I'm relaxed, I'm a little bit away from it now, and I'm in this a little bit more of a reflective mood to explain how I got to my conclusion. If you can foster that environment, you're going to be much more productive than doing anything else, in my view.
I'm going to drag you back to the Disneyland video.
Okay.
Because just it's important to note that I agree with you, and I feel the same way.
I was watching some of the comments, but
yeah,
I mean, you're limited to what they would allow you to do.
Yes,
I get that.
So I feel bad. So his name was David, and I feel bad that when he almost inevitably found the video on YouTube, because I'm sure he will have done, because it's had many thousands of views. I feel bad that one of his first reactions would be, that sneaky bastard. He didn't tell me he was filming. But here's the thing. My attitude is, you're in a public place. Either you're representing your views publicly or you're not. And to do it only with lots of strings attached, so that you're only going to represent your views if no one else but the person you're speaking to can hear them, then I find that slightly disingenuous. And without wanting to kind of appeal to ends justify means thinking, the video has done a lot of good in showing ex-witnesses how to respectfully engage. Because one of the problems that
ex-witnesses.
One of the problems that we have in the ex-witness,
current witnesses.
One of the problems we have in the ex-witness movement is this phenomenon called cart crashing, where ex-witnesses will go up to a car and basically be abusive. So my hope is that with the Disneyland video, there's like a counter to that, and saying you can...
I understand it could be worse.
And there's no way I could have had that conversation on camera with consent.
I get it. I get it. And this is actually a struggle that I find myself in too. That I'm going out with my camera, yes, to engage with the person and hopefully put a pebble in their shoes so that they think about their beliefs and maybe even discard their belief if they discover that they don't have good reasons for thinking that it's true. So my content, in a way, is done at the expense of my conversation partner, whether they know it or not. Even though I try to be over-explanatory. Can I record you? Can we have this conversation? I'd like to respectfully challenge your views. The work that I do is more for the people watching it than the individual that I've spoken to.
Which was the case with the Disneyland.
Then that's why I'm raising it, because I understand you have to kind of crack a few eggs to make an omelet sometimes. So this is kind of a murky ethical area, but I wouldn't just go back. Yes, there are laws that say, oh, you can record him. However, I think we have to take it a step further. I think we have an obligation to be a little bit more careful in how we go about capturing the examples that we can use to show other people how to do this, how to engage with people.
Yeah, I sense that's because again, it's a huge dilemma, and it's one that I continue to grapple with. But there's just simply no other way.
No, I get it.
Of having a conversation with a JW on camera.
They do seem, that might be the most restrictive religion that I've discovered to date when it comes to letting other people sit in on it, watch it, observe it, which is kind of...
I mean, I know you've had conversations with JWs, but I think that they've been... Well, first of all, you do a lot of work on university campuses, and if you run into a JW who's a university student, they're already making massive compromises.
Just to go to school.
I know that one or two that I've watched have even said, oh, my faith is very weak at the moment, which isn't, they're already coming from the position of not really representing what a true bona fide JW would think and say, So it's a tricky
we're
one.
kind of bordering on the no true Scotsman
That's true,
fallacy,
yeah,
just
true,
a little bit.
Yeah,
but I
agree.
get it. That could be a massive undertaking just to say, I'm going to be of the world and go to an of the world university and be around all these other people who are not of the Jehovah's Witness faith. And the mentality that it might take for a student to go there or their parents to allow it could deviate from maybe the more conservative mindset of the Jehovah's Witnesses that you might normally find, or maybe the ones manning the booths.
So leaving aside the whole kind of murky dilemma that we've been grappling with, what would be your advice to an ex-Jehovah's Witness watching this, who, without thinking about filming or recording for the benefit of the masses, they're looking for advice on how to respectfully and meaningfully enter into a dialogue where the person doesn't shut down?
Find a quiet time where the person has the bandwidth to actually sit down with you for a little bit. Maybe it's a car trip, where you're going from one state to the other or one country to the other, and you have a little bit of time in the car, and you've built some rapport, you've made them feel comfortable, they don't feel rushed. That might be one thing that you can do. Don't immediately... One of the worst things that we tend to do is we tend to argue about the doctrine. And especially if you know the doctrine really well, it's so hard to set that aside. And arguing about Bible verses or this doctrine is foolish because science says otherwise, you're probably wasting your time. They're probably not going to find that compelling. The most effective approach, and this is what we really try to do with Street Epistemology, is to figure out the reasons why that person thinks that it's true and how they concluded that those are good reasons. So you're not talking about the belief, which is so tied to a person's identity. You're talking about reasons and methods. When you approach it that way, a person generally seems to be more open to exploring the whole web of beliefs, as opposed to you're challenging what I think, and what I think is so a part of me, so you're actually challenging me. Another tip, I think, could be you don't even necessarily have to explore their God belief and why they think it's true and the reasons for validating those reasons. You can be challenging in a respectful way using these same tools other claims that they make. So they may hold a stance about vaccines, or it might almost always come to religion. This is why when I go out, religion or do you think God is real is one of the topics that I love the most, because there's so many other things built on it. But you can nibble away at all these ancillary beliefs using the tool, while at the same time you're practicing on how to use the tool. And you're also teaching the person how to ask these questions, hopefully of themselves. So if you have 30 conversations with your loved one who's a Jehovah's Witness, and you're using Street Epistemology, and you're using it on safer topics, they may be more prepared to start asking themselves those questions on why they think this religion is true, why this God is real.
Can we do a very quick role play?
Yeah, sure.
So I'm a Jehovah's Witness. We've just met.
Okay.
One of the reasons that convinced me that my beliefs are true is that Jehovah's Witnesses believe that the last days began in 1914.
Okay.
And actually, if you think about it, 1914 was when World War I began. And ever since 1914, the world has become so dangerous and filled with depravity. We even have the ability to destroy each other and destroy the planet. And this convinces me that my beliefs are true.
Okay. One of the first things that I would try to do is make sure that really is the reason. So I might say something to the effect of, I'm really hoping to figure out if that's the real reason why you think that this is true. So, for example, if there was a decree from the church saying otherwise, or we actually were to look at studies and show that things are actually improving since 1914, would it cause you to reflect on your belief a little more, or maybe would it even cause you to lower your confidence in your claim that this God is real?
Possibly, but I can't imagine the faithful slave ever making that kind of pronouncement, because the whole religion is geared towards the fact that Armageddon is fast approaching.
Well, the idea, what I'm really trying to get to, though, is I think the premise here is that since 1914, things have been getting worse. If we could actually demonstrate that things have been getting better to your satisfaction, would it cause you to budge in your confidence that this God was real?
It might give me a problem.
It might. Okay. How much of an impact are we talking about here?
Well, the whole theology is based on the fact that the last days began in 1914, and shortly after, the leadership was chosen invisibly in 1919. So 1914 is kind of crucial.
Okay. So back to my question. If we had studies to show that things have been improving since 1914 by a variety of different measurements that you are willing to accept, that those are good measurements, would it actually decrease your confidence that the God was real?
I might doubt that the studies had been obtained fairly, because Satan's system's trying to deceive us.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, so do you want to keep going? Okay.
No, I'm just...
You're just warming up.
So, just to give you a sample of how...
This is great.
Yeah.
This is good. And if this is sort of a typical trajectory of a conversation, you'll notice maybe that I didn't start giving you examples of how things are improving. You
were saying, how would you respond if?
Yes. I'm testing the waters to see if it's worth my time to present you with that information. And I think you said something like, I think it would actually cause me to look at it. But then you gave this other reason why I could just dismiss those reasons. Well, that could be of Satan, and that Satan could be providing me with these studies to show that things are getting better when really it's not. So then I think I'd shift to, how do you think we could actually tell that things are getting worse or better? By what metric are you using to get there?
Whenever I turn on the TV, things are just getting worse and worse. That's what they would say.
That's good. That's good. So I think I would be like water and roll with it. So I'd be like, okay, that's interesting. If you kept turning on the television and things started getting better and better, would it decrease your confidence in your claim?
I suppose it would have to. Does this brilliantly.
So that's an important point, and that's why I just sat on that a little bit, because that's a good discovery. If I had my whiteboard, I'd probably be writing that down. Okay, this is something that you might actually consider. It's not uncommon for people to say, well, no, you kind of got to it a little bit earlier, but if I started seeing news reports that things were getting better, I might question it. So then we have to explore, well, why are you questioning when things would be getting better, but not questioning when things get worse? What's going on there? And they may start to realize on their own that they have a double standard. They're not being consistent. And then you can start talking about, well, why might you have this inconsistency? What might be driving that? So at any point during that conversation, did you notice me ever telling you anything?
No. Okay.
It was all me asking you questions.
Yeah.
And that's one of the best things that you can do with somebody who's indoctrinated into a religion, into a cult, is to be respectful, hear them out, don't misrepresent them. Help them develop their best argument for their position and ask them questions to challenge it in a respectful way. And that might be a note that I would actually end on when you're like, you gave that, actually I was the one going, but you said something really profound, and I might have jotted it down. Somebody, when you observe somebody stopping cold in their tracks when you just said something, and then they jot it down, more than likely through your mind you're thinking, what did I just say?
I must have said something deeply profound.
Something really profound. And it could actually cause you to take another look at it, maybe think about it.
That's interesting. And again, just to go back to the conversations I've had, and again, we can talk more maybe at some future point or whenever about the whole issue of consent and what have you. But one thing I've always tried to do in my conversations is stick to the SE method of I don't demand that this conversation concludes in a way that satisfies me. I am not looking to achieve a victory and plant a flag in your mind so that, hey, I've brought you over to my way of thinking. It's more a way of simply having a conversation that hopefully sows a seed, so that at some future point I think, actually, I really didn't represent things very well there.
That tends to be the reaction, because people will email me later and say, can we meet again? Because I really think I didn't do a good enough job representing my position. That's good. So I do sometimes get a sense that people regret it later, that they didn't toe the line, or they didn't do as good of a job as they think that they should have. And even that is valuable, I think. And you don't have to look at this as, how can I go in there and plant the seed? That might be your goal, but even if you don't hit the goal, even that particular goal, even if you end it on a respectful tone, and they think, oh, wow, that was somebody that I disagree with. They challenged me. I didn't really budge in my position, but that was interesting. They asked some good questions there. And maybe the next time they turn on the television and see the news and see a good news story or a bad news story, it might actually remind them of the conversation and get them thinking again. And this is why I'm running all over the world promoting Street Epistemology. We want as many people to learn this approach as possible, so that maybe that one-off conversation that I had with a Jehovah's Witness when they happen to be alone and they gave those very same reasons, it may have opened them up just a little bit. So the next time somebody runs into them and they use SE, they may actually make more traction, make more progress than I did, because they might be a little bit more comfortable with these types of questions. And they might even have a better answer to why they actually think it's true. And they may even abandon the whole 1914 things are getting worse type of thing, because maybe they're like, I don't know if I did a good enough job defending that, so let me go to something else. And you're making progress if you do that.
And frankly, even if SE weren't effective, which it is, I would still lean towards it, because simply for the fact that it completely confounds the stereotype of how, quote unquote, opposers are going to approach God's people. The Watchtower tells witnesses, look, these people are out to get you, they're out to mislead you, they're out to insult you, and act in a very provocative, aggressive way.
And if you do that, you've just now demonstrated that leadership is telling you the truth.
Yeah.
So you're doing a disservice to people who are trying to go out and have more respectful conversations if you use the hard approach, because you're going to probably drive them deeper into that belief. You're not going to open them up. You're going to continue the stereotype that atheists and non-believers, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, are these aggressive assholes. Yeah. And that doesn't really do us any good. It really doesn't.
Indeed. Well, it's been fascinating thrashing out these issues and learning more about street epistemology. I really feel like you're almost my Yoda in this respect, and I'm continuing to learn, but hopefully we can just get the word out a little bit and help people to understand that this is a tried and true way of reaching through to people.
It does seem to be extremely effective. Most people at the end of the conversation seem to have a much better view of their positions, their reasons, and their methods. And perhaps more importantly, they seem eager to come back to keep exploring it with you. And that's good. That's a good thing, because we want to keep the dialogue open with people, because we want, including ourselves, we should constantly be taking a look at the beliefs that we hold and bouncing them up against reality and evaluating our reasons and taking another look at the reliability of our methodology. And that's what we do in Street Epistemology. And there are countless video examples on YouTube, not just my channel, but other people who are doing this. And we have examples with Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons and Hindus and you name it, and even atheists. We use this tool with people who say, I'm sure there's no God.
Yeah, which is an irrational position.
To be certain of no God. I agree with that. Yeah.
So, viewers, I hope you found our conversation interesting. I'm going to pop some links to your channel and other channels below so that people can just see how this, again, it's formulaic, but it's also formulaic for a reason, so that we can...
Can I address that just real quick?
Yeah.
There is a formulaic nature to it in that it's a tool. So when you pull out a hammer, the hammer is shaped pretty much the same. but it's how you wield it, and what you do with that hammer. And there's pros and cons to being formulaic. When it's formulaic, like a JW cart, you can roll it out worldwide and have consistency regardless of where somebody goes. And you can do that with street epistemology too. And it's a great way to learn it. People watch 5 or 10 videos and they start anticipating the questions that we ask. And then I've even heard people say, I've become more confident in my ability to do this because I was anticipating the question that you asked and you asked it. So now I'm comfortable using this method. However, there's a risk in becoming too cookie cutter. You don't want it to come across as insincere. You want to sincerely, my advice to be good at street epistemology is to want to empathetically help people that you love. You know, it's an expression of love, honestly, the challenge of you. Do
you think it's possible to be over-analytical? Because I notice in a lot
as a practitioner,
I notice on a lot of the videos, because you run them on Discord and kind of get feedback, and quite often I'll see little blurbs come up where the person who's making the video says, at this point I should have said this, and it's almost like it's like a sport where there's like running commentary and he missed that play, and
so I don't see it like that.
No.
Most of the people who are going out and recording conversations and putting them on YouTube are doing it because we want to teach people how to do it.
Yeah.
So these are training aids. These aren't sporting events where we're taking pleasure in watching somebody squirm.
No.
This is to help that person, albeit at their expense to a certain extent.
Although conversations by their very nature have to be organic to a degree. And there's always going to be situations where you come away and you think, I should have said this or I should have said that. But who's to say that the thing that you did say wasn't actually the thing that you should have said? Because
that's a good point. You don't really know how you performed until you can meet with the other person again and they give you feedback. And even then, they may be holding something back. They may be just being really casual and nonchalant, and they're like, he destroyed every argument that I have.
Because the thing that you think you shouldn't have said might be the thing that really helps them think. You know?
There are times where people ask me my stance on their claim. And I say, well, to be clear with you, I don't believe in the Bible. I don't think the Bible is a source of truth. I don't believe in any gods. And normally people get defensive when you say that. So I try to hold it to the end if I can, but I'm not against revealing my view. But sometimes people relax and open up more if you reveal that you don't believe it. Now, I don't know why that's the case. Maybe you think, this is an opportunity to preach, or, I've actually been questioning and I've never really met an atheist before. Can you tell me a little bit about your point of view? And so it's really interesting how people react to different revelations when it comes to your own view.
I think it's because you exude calmness and kind of positivity, and I think when you make that when you say that, I happen to not believe in the Bible, that you're already confounding perhaps a stereotype in their head that someone who doesn't believe in the Bible would not be as calm and as composed as you probably are. I
often regret not spending more time building rapport at the beginning of the conversation. Sometimes
rapport is key, would you say?
Rapport is key. It's so important because it helps a person get a good sense of who you are, or at least a decent sense of it. And you can oftentimes, I think it helps them see you as a person. And there might be elements that come up, discussion points that are raised during the rapport building phase that might be useful later on in the conversation. They might reveal that they're studying mechanical engineering, and yet maybe they have supernatural beliefs. So you can start using some of the reasons that they're using to conclude God is real to see if somebody can use that same reason to build a bridge.
True. So we need to check out of the room.
So we probably are going to talk for another couple hours.
We're going to carry on this conversation in the car
privately. Sorry,
but at least we've given you something to chew on. Please do check out Street Epistemology if you haven't done so already. It's a fantastic method for engaging with people in this position. And I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe, to the John Cedars channel for more such videos. Anthony, it's been
Lloyd, thank you very, very much. Really appreciate it.
And thank you for watching.